Good afternoon. I am Larry Jacobs. I'm the director for the Center of the Study of Politics and Governance here at the Humphrey School, at the University of Minnesota. And we are the hosts and founders of the Certificate in Election Administration. Before we begin, those of you who are joining us online, look at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a Q&A button. That's your opportunity to participate in the conversation. Please submit your questions. We're going to get to as many as possible. You'll also see next to it, there's a transcript button. Those of you who like a transcript, click on that and you can get that feature as well. Thank you for joining us today for our event, Democracy at Work, Exploring Careers in Election Administration. Now, I just want to say a few words about the Certificate in Election Administration. You may be wondering, what's this all about? Well, here it is in a nutshell. This is an online academic program here at the Humphrey School, University of Minnesota. It provides comprehensive training in election administration. The mission is to expand professional expertise, nonpartisan training, and also to prepare the next generation of election administrators. The program blends academic training with practical applications and best practices. The students who take this class will be learning and are learning critical skills in election administration. They're also learning critical thinking skills because many of the challenges coming to election officials are being tackled in real time. And so we need critical thinking in order to do that. The work is interesting, it is demanding, and it is mission-driven, as I think you're going to hear today. It is integral to a working democracy. Our program staff and our instructors play a critical role in providing career guidance, providing help in getting into election administration networks, and in job placement. We are teaching 2 courses coming up in a couple weeks. On October 21st, it'll start. And you can enroll in those programs now, today even. One is called Voter Outreach and Participation, and the other is Election Policy in the Second Trump Administration. You can register for those classes as a non-degree student, or you can register as someone who's been admitted to the certificate program. If you do it as a non-degree student, you can roll those credits in later if you decide to enroll in the program. I just want to mention our instructors are all really leaders in the field. They're often running elections in states or playing key leadership roles, playing critical roles at the national level. They're also some of the most influential people in the country on election administration. So the instructors are really, I think, the heart of this program. We're going to start today by talking with 2 terrific election officials here in Minnesota. And then we're going to look at, a documentary on recent elections. Let me first introduce, wow. Sorry. Let me first introduce Nicole Conlin, who's Election Systems Division Manager at Hennepin County. She co-chairs the Metropolitan County Officers Election Subcommittee. She has MA degrees, master's degrees from University of St. Thomas, and a master's degree in civic engagement and election, as well as the election administration certificate, which we're talking about today. Thank you so much for joining us. Also joining us is Emily Hunt, who's the Deputy Director of Elections at the Office of the Minnesota Secretary of State. Emily has a master's degree in professional studies of civic engagement at the University of Minnesota. She also has a graduate certificate in nonprofit and organizational leadership from Minnesota State University at Mankato. So here are 2 people who are very familiar with election administration and are doing the work. And I'm just going to hop in with the question that we sometimes get. People say, oh yeah, we know this is important work, but what is it like as a job? Maybe you could start us off. Just what's the pay like? What are the benefits like? Just in a nitty-gritty way, what's the job like?
Well, I think to start, it's the best job in the world. So I'll just cover that. If you have that question, it is. Starting pay for entry level, and there are a lot of entry level opportunities, both temporary and full time, in elections world. Lots of jobs out there, and election judge jobs are paid in Minnesota. So I always like to plug that as well for election day and absentee voting. Starting salary is about 40 to 50,000 typically if we're talking multi-jurisdiction across the state in Minnesota, most other states as well. It does vary by metropolitan region, and I'm sure Nicole can add a little bit more to experience at Hennepin County, our largest county, and with our largest city in Minnesota. So it does vary a little bit, but there are lots of opportunities, always looking for both temporary and full-time work.
Sometimes folks will come and say, wait a second, I see these people, on election day, they're talking about poll workers. But obviously the work is a lot more than that, and it is an ongoing occupation. Nicole, could you fill out that picture of what is the job?
Yeah, I mean, one of the most interesting things about this job is that you wear a lot of different hats, and it varies by the day, by the hour, by the time during, or by where you are in the election cycle. So there are days where I'm working on procurement, so like trying to find new equipment or yeah, vetting vendors, things like that. And then there's other days where I'm like staring at a pack of ballots all day, trying to test our equipment and make sure that, we're getting the results that we are expecting to get from our test ballots. And then there's also voter registration that happens a lot, quite a bit, all the time. Those people who handle voter registration are heroes for us. They're dealing with a lot of data day to day. And then there's also like voter outreach and education. So folks can work with, communications partners and other things like that. Trying to think of other things that I'm missing. Training, yeah, Emily has some great training experience, especially recently.
And along with training goes supporting the jurisdiction. So counties that train their clerks, city clerks, or school district clerks to run elections and support them throughout. And everybody's kind of in a community together statewide as well. So training from the statewide level, all of the counties to run elections with their jurisdictions.
This is great. So you're kind of opening up the box and saying, well, here's the job. This is mission driven, but here's what the actual work is. And it sounds like it's well paying. There's benefits. And then the work itself is interesting. It's challenging. It's different. This is not a mundane job where you're saying, oh no, I'm sitting at a desk doing the same thing every day. The opposite of that, actually. Talk a little bit about advancement. Is this the kind of thing where you start off and you do the same thing for 40 years, or are there opportunities to move along?
Especially kind of connecting to Nicole's experience with the metro area county work group. It's a professional organization that connects folks with each other. So there's a really good network where you are meeting people, you are finding more opportunities within the election world, from city level jobs to the state. So there are lots of opportunities really connecting with folks. There is also a pretty tremendous growth in our field, and some offices have expanded, particularly Hennepin County and the state have expanded quite a bit for need the past several years.
So what could you just give us some numbers on what you've experienced?
Yes, the Office of the Secretary of State, and I just joined as deputy recently, but before my time expanded from about 5 people about a decade ago to we have 16 staff on our team.
Wow. So that's a threefold increase.
Yes, yep, and that's in the elections division. So yeah, over at Hennepin.
Yeah, when I started at Hennepin, 12 years ago now, we had, I believe, 6 or 7 permanent staff that worked year round, and now we are up to almost 30. So we have done, I don't know how to do fast math like you do, but we have grown quite significantly.
And so again, this is a key point that we get asked a lot, what is a job like? And critical part of that is there are jobs. This is a growth part. And the area of election administration, because of age and other factors, people have been kind of retiring out of it. And so there are a lot of openings, plus the work itself has become more complicated, it's become more demanding, and so we've seen more hiring. Let me ask this question, and we've got a terrific documentary to go to. Do you find this job to be worthwhile?
I do. I find a lot of value in this job. There are typical the challenges that we might see in this documentary. And despite those challenges and the stress that comes with some of the work, it is very valuable. We hear it directly from the voters we serve, the election judges we work with seasonally, and we know that we're up to it. We're up to the challenges. We care, and we problem solve through everything as best we can with each other in our community.
Yeah, like I said, I love the job for multiple reasons. Being able to do something different almost every day, being able to learn a new skill is really interesting to me and keeps me excited about going back to work every day. And then also having those communications and those conversations with voters, with your neighbors, with other residents, and the candidates, being able to talk them through a process or helping a voter vote for the first time is always like a very cool opportunity. And I highly suggest everyone try it if they can. But yeah, just being able to make the impact that you feel good about waking up and going to work in the morning every day.
Great. So we've got this documentary called The Officials. It follows 4 election officials as they prepared for the 2024 elections. So we're going to vacate this area, and we'll come back in a second after the video. We're back with our 2 Minnesota election officials. And let's just start. Does any of this look familiar to you?
Yes. Everything that you saw and everything that you heard feels about right.
And what in particular, what would you single out as part of the experience that you had?
I will say, acknowledging the pressures, we have been there with either, public events or calls from voters, calls from folks in the community at canvassing events, post-election even. So before and after election, we have received questions and have gotten really great at working within our community and trying to have the best in the moment responses for folks, because we know we trust in our process. We have really unwavering support for how we administer elections and can, with most questions that we get, answer what folks are feeling within scrutiny and the pressures that they're applying to us. We can feel confident in what we do.
Hennepin County, of course, heavily Democratic. So this sort of stuff doesn't happen in Hennepin County.
Definitely does. I like Emily. I relate to everything that was shown in the video that we just watched, which was really great. Yeah, it's happening a little bit more in person now that things are people are seeing each other now. But yeah, on the phones, the emails that we are getting, the questions that we get, they can definitely be a little scary, but luckily, we have a lot of support from our board, from the Secretary of State's office, from our neighboring counties and cities and schools. I think everyone really understands the importance of elections and the importance of what we do. And so people are really able to get behind us and make sure that we are thinking about safety and precautions and things that are necessary.
So I'm just curious how you process the threats, but also, well-meaning questions. Because, people will look at all the ballots being counted and ideas will pop into their head about fraud or miscounts. What is the best way to approach that as a way to be effective in responding to well-meaning questions?
So my first thought when I get a question like that, or a question about any sort of part of the process, is that it's exciting that people are interested and they're just looking for information. Typically, if someone asks a question, you give them the information, they will usually walk away pretty satisfied with that information. And I think you just have to come at it in people are curious. They just want to know how something works, and then we can explain how that happens. And usually, they're pretty happy.
I used to feel that once every 4 years, everybody thinks about what I do for a living, and that between then, I was trying to educate and work hard to let folks know that there are elections in between presidential elections. That's not the case anymore. Folks are interested, like Nicole says, and they care to know how does the process work. And not only that, but how can I get involved? So that's pretty encouraging to have more of a turnout for folks to support what we do rather than criticize. And I do feel like that's where we're moving. Our community within has built that up and really represents what we do well. So I have to say, even if there are challenges, even if there are questions about within audits, we can explain and educate as well as we possibly can. But as far as pressures go, I also used to feel that Leslie Knope has a quote from Parks and Rec about if you're yelling at me, something like, I just hear you caring really loudly. I still face questions and scrutiny like that. I do try to, within myself, receive it from a place of I'm going to educate you and you want to hear and learn, and we can go from there. If I feel that there might be something else to it, we can go from there. But most folks who ask questions are curious.
And of course, students in the Certificate in Election Administration program get to go deep on the details. And one of the aspects of the controversies in the last 4 or 5 years has been the development of greater transparency of things like post-election audits and other things that you would think, okay, that's a lock solid response. We can show people, here's what the audit, hand counted ballots, and it still doesn't work. And it's a little frustrating. Do you share that?
You take that? So our system has always included careful planning, internal controls, and post-election audits. It's not new. We are always happy to talk through and the entire election cycle of planning, executing, evaluating, and going through audits and discovering if there is any error, what it might be. We always love to have, when there are public events, folks ask questions to understand that there are answers to those questions and that the accuracy of our voting equipment and our processes is provable in front of the public.
And one of the things that some of our election instructors say in the program is before the election, it's important to lay out the procedure in very minute detail so that when the elections happen, the questions start to come, none of them are a surprise. And they're all tied into what will be done and the effort to provide security for the ballots. Has that been your experience as well, that the attention before the election has become quite rigorous in order to be prepared for Election Day and the challenges?
Yes, definitely. I mean, I think a lot of people ask the question, what do you do when you're not on election day? Like you just hang out the other 364 days out of the year. And we're definitely planning. We are we're either living 2 years ahead or a year behind, depending on where we are in the calendar. But yes, we have planned very meticulously with a lot of manuals, a lot of documentation, a lot of training for all the questions that can come up or all the things that could happen. Of course, there are always certain things that surprise us, right? If we get, if there's a lawsuit or if there's a change in the way that the media is portraying certain things, we have to react to those. But a lot of the things that we're doing, we're proactively trying to make sure that we're accounting for those things.
think that's a really important point because you're right. People see election administration as election day, but that's really just one element. It's the preparation, it's the execution, but sometimes well before election day. And then after election day, election officials are really under the gun because you've got to go back and account for the ballots. And then within a fairly short time, be able to report for the canvassing and say, here are the results. And those, I imagine, are kind of long days and long nights.
Yes, we do have some long days and we have long nights most of the year. I will say it is not just close to elections too. If we are preparing for something, a lot of, maybe to add more and not repeat too much of what Nicole said, we are most focused on trying to present the information so that it can be clearly understood. Some of what we do is very technical. We are interpreting some legal language to be able to help folks understand how does this affect you and how does this inform administration. So a lot of the additional work that we do is brain power to make the process more accessible and clear to the public.
We've got some questions here. I thought I'd pose them. How can nonpartisan organizations support election administration and election officials?
I think we do have some of nonpartisan partners, national partners on this call. So just want to shout out the folks who are listening. Thank you for the support. A lot of those individuals at some of our non-elections group and others are former election officials, so know the perspectives and know how to support us. In addition to that, there are a lot of local communities that are conducting registration drives or recruiting poll workers for working within our polling places and absentee voting. So there are lots of ways to expand this, additionally carrying the message of what we do, understanding what administration of elections looks like and how much work goes into it, but also all of the thousands of people who support what we do in this city alone. But in addition, nationwide, the work that goes into running elections for federal, state, and local elections is very intense.
Become a poll worker. I think that every jurisdiction is always looking for people to work as an election judge at a polling place, or even there are some opportunities with absentee voting to do that before that. And I also think just combating disinformation, misinformation, if you're having a conversation with a friend and they're, trying to poke some holes where that they don't exist, maybe have that conversation, because we can't be the only ones to be talking about all the checks that we have in place to make sure that our elections are ran well. And then just also remember that these people who are running your elections, they're your neighbors, they're your friends. We're just all trying to do a good job and for the voters. We really love coming to work every day, and like no one's trying to come in and do anything less than 100%. So
That's inspiring. Of course, a lot of people learn about elections from the media. The media is very important. Have you taken steps to equip the media to cover a story, to be able to handle questions that are really off track or accusations that are not true?
Our communications departments are really phenomenal in supporting our team. We're administrators, so we're doing the work to keep the process going and clearly explain to the folks who carry our message, our connections with the media, accurate information. What is the precise language to use that helps the public understand how to describe processes so that they are top to bottom clear for folks, when to become involved and to be informed. So those connections and our partners internally, both at the state and the local levels, are incredibly important. In addition to that, the nonprofit partners who work within community and with media generally help help us to understand more of what the questions are out there so that we can develop better communication, better information for media when things come up. In addition to that, social media responses and being really prepared in advance for when things might come up quickly.
So you engage in social media. Something comes up in Facebook, your office will be right there.
Our communications team will be right there. They're the experts in that, but we work with them so closely so that they have the correct current information. We plan ahead too, because we do have such wonderful relationships throughout the country, different states. We learn from them. What are you hearing? We follow the news as well. So what is in the news that we can prepare some messaging around, because our voters are going to ask questions too.
One thing I will mention that Hennepin has been doing, and I think other neighboring counties have also done similar things, is we have an event every 2 years usually, because there's a lot more attention during an even year, but where we invite media into our space and we talk about some of the processes that we have, and we let them see the machines. We let them like ask questions about ballots and other things. And I think that has really developed a good relationship, that when they have a question about a story, they can reach out instead of just kind of running with anything. They have that person to ask. And those relationships are made, which has been really beneficial to us.
Yeah, I think that's very important because, reporters cover so many stories, so many topics. And on election day, they're getting bombarded, and the media orientation sometimes is cover both sides. Well, if you're dealing with, accusations that are completely off base, you need to make a decision. Is this true? And so being able to understand the elections process is so fundamental. Is the Secretary of State's office doing something similar of really trying to educate editors and reporters on what are these processes you're going to hear about on election day?
Yes, our communications team has very close partnerships. They try to connect as much as they can with national and local media representatives to know who exactly to call when there is something coming up in the news. We have press release page as well, so encourage folks to follow that press release page. When there is news, we share it there and frequently.
I've got a couple questions here from students in the certificate program. Here's one. I'll finish the program in the spring. What should I be doing now to set myself up for election work, whether full-time, part-time, or seasonal?
I would say informational interviews are your friend. I don't know how much, okay, I'll be very quick about it, but the way that I got into this career is through an informational interview. I was actually a server at Old Chicago in Roseville, and a friend had talked to one of the guests, and that person ended up being our county auditor here at Hennepin. He has since left the county, but and so I was invited by him, Mark Chapin, to go to an informational interview for with Taxpayer Services, which included at the time elections. And I met with a lot of the different managers there. They talked to me about their different divisions and what they did, and that's how I formed this relationship. And luckily, they were hiring for some limited duration folks for that season. So I really think that having informational interviews, meeting people and discussing, what careers are available and what positions might be open in the future.
So does it make sense for the students in the certificate program to get in touch with election officials, say, hey, can we just chat? I want to, get a feel for what this career is about. Is that a reasonable way to get an informational interview?
Yes, absolutely. Please reach out. We love to talk about our job because we love our job so much. I would say probably not, October, end of October, early November, but yeah, if you just reach out, I think that speaking for at least myself and for Emily, we would be happy to talk to you about the career paths that are available in elections.
Yeah, just to be clear about that, this is high season. So if you think about, summer with a resort where it's high season, this is high season for election workers. And in some cases, it'll go to January with the canvassing process. So think about, early winter or spring to get in touch.
I will say that we are almost record breaking for the number of state special elections in Minnesota this year. So elections really haven't stopped for us in most cases, Hennepin counties too, especially. So, feel free. We are now in a state of constant elections and are happy to talk to you whenever.
Well, another question is, I want to develop a network with election administrators. How do I do it?
This program was a very good idea to start your network. And I think that even if you're new to elections, you're meeting each other, keep in contact with your cohort. I would say you're all maybe in different states as well. Finding in your area, there are elections offices, there are jobs out there, become a poll worker, definitely good places to start. And then nonprofit organizations who are have a civic engagement program or conducting voter registration as well.
Yeah, reach out, become a poll worker. It's really fun, and then you get to see a lot of different the other side of it, which is just so interesting. And I don't know, you get to like hang out with people in the community, and you can hand out I voted stickers, which always makes you the most popular person in the polling place, I have to say.
And of course, your instructors are a great resource, and you should feel free to, make contact. These are people who are really committed, who share this passion and this commitment to election administration. Last question, how did you get started? People wonder, they see you as kind of stars. Where did it start for you?
Long story or short story. My mom worked at the county I grew up in, and there was small county. There was need for some support in different divisions for elections, and I learned about it from that. She loved it, and I worked for her boss eventually. This is Blue Earth County, and I was a young person, worked there a few years throughout the 2008 recount. So that's what put its hooks in me. I worked in a historic recount and then went to college, did some other things, and then joined full time. Once I moved to the metro area where I could work full time in an elections office year round. So that's how I got started. I also was a student election judge in Minnesota, poll worker. So I started that as well when I was 16.
I kind of already talked about how I started, but I wanted to just add that political science is going to be, a lot of us focused on that in college or in our other areas of studies. But I will say that the election administration career has become so much broader than that. You're seeing people that have backgrounds in IT. You're seeing people who have backgrounds in security, there's so many other ways. I mean, honestly, there was someone in our office that also had like a geography major, which I thought was really interesting. So you're not limited only to political science, public policy, that sort of thing. And yes, I strongly think that taking a course in the CA program would be really helpful for anyone who wants to learn anything else about elections, or at least get their feet wet.
I have to say, when you look at the CA students, they have that kind of very diverse background. When we started, 9 or 10 years ago, it was more political science. Now it's really quite broad and from all over the country because, of course, CEA is online. And a lot of the states are looking for this kind of nonpartisan training with the best people in the country. Thank you to so much, Emily Hunt and Nicole Conlin. This has been so helpful. I know folks who are joining us online appreciate it, and all the folks here. Let me just remind you that there are 2 classes starting on October 21st. If you're interested, here are the classes. You can still enroll, and we encourage you to do that. They're both taught by outstanding instructors. And reach out to the staff of the certificate program. We are always eager to hear from you and eager to help. Once again, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.